Good morning, everybody. Mark Kirby again. We're working on some Excel stuff for the Accounting 6 spreadsheets for accounting. We're going to kind of focus on Chapter 16 today. Chapter 16 is covers notes payable, notes receivable, interest calculations, things like that. And Excel is a wonderful tool to do these sorts of things. The Excel lends itself to doing a lot of math calculations really quickly, and interest calculations can be just lots and lots of calculations, and we can do them real quick. So here we go. So just a reminder, got my name up on the spreadsheet. I want to make sure I rename my tab. Let's see. Problem, let's see, 16.1a. I don't know what the homework really is, but I want to make sure I name my tab and go from there. How are we going to save this? We're going to do a file save as, and we're going to make sure we get our name in the file name. Chapter 16. Here we go. Okay. So, notes payable. When you borrow money from someone, you always need to know A, how much you owe them, B, when do you have to pay it off? So, let's see. The amount that you borrow from somebody is called the principal. The interest rate that they're going to charge you to borrow the money. The due date. The date that, the borrow date, the day you borrowed the money. Okay. Does everyone remember the formula for calculating interest? Interest equals principal times the rate times the time. Okay? So for calculating any of this, the required fields are going to be obviously the principal. Let's say we're going to borrow $2,000. Let's put it in the right field. The interest rate, let's call it 8%. When are we going to borrow the money? Let's say 1/1/2013. Okay. And the note is a let's say the note is a 3-month note. Okay? If it's a 3-month note, when is it due? Well, we can sit here and figure this out manually, right? January 1, February 1 is a month, March 1 is 2 months, April 1 is 3 months. So we could go and type in 4/1/2013, and that's what the due date is. But that's kind of an archaic way to do it, right? What if we have a whole bunch of these that we have to figure out? It would be nice to have Excel figure it out for us. And there's a way we can do that. There are some functions in Excel under the formulas, date and time. Excel does all kinds of date and time stuff, and we're going to use a couple of these. Okay, and we can use them to calculate the due date of a note for us. Let's do another note here right next to this one. Resize my column. Let's make all the elements the same. This time I want it to calculate that for me. One of the things we can do, notes are stated in two different possible terms. The first one I gave you just a moment ago was a 3-month note. The other thing that you see is a note denominated in days. Okay? Is a 3-month note the same as a 90-day note? I hope everyone is going, no, they're not. Remember, some months have 31 days. One month only has 28 or 29. So 3 months is a lot different, or can be a lot different, than a 90-day note. So let's show you the difference. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to plug it here. And this can be our 3-month note. And this is our 90-day note. And I'm going to underline those just to kind of make it look nice. Okay, so what's the due date? I'm going to come over here and put number of months, 3, number of days, 90. Now Excel's really cool about this. I'm going to do the math below. I can take plus 1/1/2013 plus 90, and I get a new date, 4/1/2013. So it adds dates very well for us. It took a date, January 1, 2013, it added 90 days to it, and it says your due date would be 4/1/2013. Now that happens to be the exact same number we came up with over here, and it's because January has more than 30 days, and March has more than 30 days, but February only had 28, so it just happened to work out. So it's a bad example. We'll change it in a second. I'll show you the difference. But what do I do over here if I've got a note denominated in months? I can't take the borrow date and then add the number of days, because I get January 4th. That's supposed to be months, right? It's months, not days. So that one doesn't work. I've seen a lot of students do this, plus the date, plus the number of months, times 30, and in this particular case you'll get the right number. You know, that worked in this case. Let's change our borrowing date from January 1 to 6/1/13. Okay. Oddly enough, that one works too. That's not working well for me. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. Here's one where there's an odd number of days in a month. So look what I've done. I have borrowed the money on July 1, 2013 for 90 days. It would be due 90 days, you do the simple math, hit F2, is September 29th, 2013. Okay, that seems reasonable. If I borrow the money for 3 months, so July 1, 2013 plus 3 months times 30 gives me September 29th. But is that right? Let's think this through. July 1 to August 1 is 1 month. To September 1 is 2 months. To October 1 is 3 months. So this date right here, this September 29th date, is wrong. How do we deal with that? Excel has a way. I'm going to clear that space out, that cell, and I'm going to put a new formula in there. And instead of just adding a number of days or a number of months multiplied by 30, there is something called a EDATE function. Equals EDATE, open parentheses, and it wants the start date. I'm going to just point at 7/1/2013, look at my format down here, comma, and how many months into the future do I want to go? Point at 3, right? Point at the number of months. End parentheses, hit enter. And that gives me the right date, the right due date, October 1, 2013. So it knows to take the month that you're in and add 3 months to it. And that's how that formula works. All right, I jumped straight to fully automating it by using the cell reference E9 and E11. We could have just typed in, I'm going to do it right below here, equals EDATE 717113, comma 3, and oh, it tells me it's 91 days. Okay, that tells me how long it is. But by automating it up here, it knows that I want 7113 and adding 3 months to it. If we change this back to 1113 and 3 months, or 215, helps if I can type, 215, 3 months, it's due 515. You could put in 4/19/2013 and it'll work. You can change the number of months to 9. You can change the number of months to 145, and it works. It knows what to do. It goes 145 months into the future, or in this case 4 months, and gives you a date corresponding to when that note would be due. Okay. I believe one of the homework problems asks you to create a schedule of when notes are due, and it gives you several notes. You could use the same schedule to do all of them. Here's what I mean by that. I'm talking perhaps too quickly. You could set it up where we did what we did just a moment ago. Here's a note, here's the beginning date, it's in months, and I use the EDATE function. Here's a note, here's days, here's the function, you just simply add. Remember what we learned in chapter 15 with data validation? We could throw in something cool like, I'm going to go to data validation. Oh, I don't want to put it right here. I'm going to put it here. Term. Just going to call it term, and I'm going to go to data, data validation, and I'm going to allow things from a list that I'll create, and it can be days or months. Only 2 things. Okay? And I'm actually going to copy that and put it here as well. So I've got data validation in both places. This one is in months, this one is in days, and you put in the number here. Let's see, let's highlight our input fields. We're going to use that light blue color that I like a lot. That's an input, that's an input, that's an input, that's an input, that's an input. This is your output right here. Okay? So how would we accommodate for whether this is months or days? 2 things. Well, we can go back to the old standby, the if statement. If, I'm going to delete this completely, equals if cell E10 equals, in parentheses, months, then what do I want to do? EDATE the date and modify it by the number of months, like that. So, if test, value if true. If it's not months, then what's the value if false? Well, I only have 2 choices, days and months. So if months is false, it must be days, and I could go plus the date plus the days, close parentheses, and move on. Okay? And I can copy that over here And let's say I changed this from days to months. Notice it changed my answer. I didn't change the 90, but by going from 90 days to 90 months, it jumped way out in the future. So 90 months in the future from July 1, 2013 is January 1, 2021. If I change my months over here, leaving the 4 to days, it goes from August 19th to April 23rd. Good? Okay. I believe the homework problem asks you to calculate a third option though, if it's years. So you could have days, months, or years, and you just need to take and modify your if formula. If test, value if true. You'll end up doing a second test. If it's months, that's good, do the calculation. If it's not months, see if it's days. If it's not months, then it's years and default to another formula. Okay? So one of the things that I want you to remember is if you're calculating a loan amount in years, banks for some reason use 360 days in a year. So you'll end up adding 360 days if it's denominated in years. Okay? The other thing that we could use this for, if you don't have any questions, is figuring out the length of a loan and then using that in the time calculation. Remember, interest equals principal times rate times time. If I'm given a bunch of data, and I'm going to borrow this, okay? I'm going to borrow this, and I'm going to come put it over here. All right, so I have this loan. This is a new loan, completely independent from what we did over here. And I want to know how many days the loan is for. How many days did we borrow the money for? Well, this is simple stuff, right? I have a loan for $2,000, 8% interest. I borrowed it on 1/1/2013. It's due 4/1/2013. Remember, I can add and subtract dates. I can take 4/1 and subtract 1/1, and it gives me 3/30/1990. All right, fine. It's in date format. I need to change it to days format, or to just numbers, and that's the number of days. We borrowed the money for 90 days. So if we made this 5/16/2013, it tells us we borrowed the money for 135 days. If I put in 7/23/2415, right? Let's go crazy. It tells me I borrowed the money for, oops, it doesn't even fit in the row, 147,000 days. Okay? So let's make this more reasonable again. 4/1/13. We borrowed the money for 90 days. So all of a sudden I can now calculate the interest due based on the formula up above. Interest equals principal times rate times time. The interest is principal times the rate times the time. Is that going to give me the answer I want? No, it's not. $14,000. I have to pay $14,000 on $2,000 that I borrowed? I hope not. Okay. Why is that? Look at what we did. Principal's $2,000. The interest rate is 8%. The time is 90. Well, it's 90 days. The interest rate is always stated as an annual rate. So that's 8% per year. And I'm multiplying straight away by 90, which is only a part of a year. Remember what I said a minute ago. Banks use 360 days in a year in their calculations. So we have to take the 90 and divide it by 360. So it's a fraction of the year. And we would owe $40 in interest. To lay it out a little differently, 2,000 times 0.08 times 90 divided by 360 is all I'm doing here. Okay? Here's the basic math, and it looks like this: 07, which is the principal, times 08, which is the interest rate, times 90 days out of 360. Okay? So remember, that works for a number of days because we're dividing by 360. I'm going to put a header up here and just call this days. Now what if it was months and we had the same loan? Okay? So I'm going to insert a column here just to separate them a little bit. Okay. So in months, let's center those. I borrowed $2,000, 8% from 1/1 to 4/1/2013. I can again still calculate the days by doing the simple math. And then we can divide by 360. What if you were told something different though? What if you were not given a due date? You were given a borrow date, and you were told that you borrowed the money for 3 months. Okay? How much interest would you owe? Well, again, it is principal times the interest rate times the time. Now, we're borrowing for 3 months. Remember, the interest rate is denominated in a 12-month, for a whole year. So I would have to divide by 12 in that scenario. I get the same $40, but I had to divide by 12 instead of 360 because I'm using 3 months instead of 90 days. Good? Okay. If you're doing years, you would have the same sort of thing, except your denominator is 1, right? So I borrowed the money for 1 year. It would be principal times interest rate times 1. Good? Again, if you were asked to build a table to do this that would handle any possibility, you could use an if statement to test to see if it's days, if it's months, or if it's years, and do the calculation differently depending on which one you had. Okay? Another thing you can do here, let's go back to chapter 14. Here's our formula. 07 plus 08 plus 012. Hit F2, it highlights all of them. Principal times interest rate times time divided by 360, right? We could do, you guys remember the name manager? We could go to formulas, name manager. I'm going to name the cell that we're in, principal. Okay. I'm going to new. I want to call this rate, and I'm going to have it refer to this cell, the interest rate, and I can add a new one, and this can be time, and have it refer to this cell right here. Hit OK. Notice I just created principal, rate, time. Tells you their current value, tells you what they refer to. Close. So over here, instead of 07, I could type in principal. Notice I type in PRIN, and Excel starts to give me options. What could I plug in there? I'm going to back up a tad. I type in P. Here's all these. Notice the FX in front. Those are all functions. R. If I type in PR, now it limits me even more. Function, 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 function. Notice this. This is a tag. This is a name tag, and that's really the one we want. If I type in I, it starts to narrow way down. N, I'm just left with the tag. So I can finish typing principal, or I can double click on that tag, principal times rate, and I want the tag, not the name tag, not the function. Apparently there's a rate function, and 012 gets replaced by time, and I want the name tag, not the function. Okay, principal times rate times time divided by 360. Bang, it works. It still gives me 40 bucks. So I used my name ranges and my name manager to make that easier on me. Did I point this out before? Look at where I'm at right now. I'm on cell 015. The little name box up here tells me that's cell 015. If I click on 07, instead of telling me that it's 07, the name box tells me that it's principal. I've named that. And if I hit the drop down, it shows me all of the named ranges I've got. And you can jump from one to the other. You can find things by clicking back and forth. Okay? Good enough. So you could put in days or months here and do an if test like we did when we calculated the due date for these notes over here. Good? All right. Let's see. How about calculating? Oh, you guys remember, if you've taken 1A, you've done it. I don't know, I don't remember 151A. Remember future value and present value? There are functions for it. Let's do an example. Principal, interest rate, borrow, payoff date. Here we go. Oh. Okay, there's some things we need to know. Let's say we borrow $4,000 and at a 6% interest rate. Let's make it look like a percentage, right? 6%. We're going to borrow at 1/1/2014. When are we going to pay it off? Don't know. Let's leave that blank for now. Let's say we're going to borrow the money for 12 periods, 12 compounding periods, which is, say, a year, right? So 12 periods, and we want to calculate what the future, oh, see, I said it all wrong. Investment. We're going to put $4,000 in a bank account at that earns 6% interest rate. Everyone should be laughing hysterically right now. We're going to put it in on 1/1/2014 for 12 months. What's the future value of that when it pays off at 1/1/2015? Okay? So remember that we used to be able to take the principal amount, the investment, the 4,000, go look up a factor in a table based on 6%, 12 periods, do the math, right? Excel will do it for you. So equals, and we go find our function. Let's say we don't know what this is. I'm going to go use the function wizard. Future value. Hit go. It gives me FV. Okay, tells me what it is. Returns the value of the future value of an investment based on periodic, constant payments and a constant interest rate. Wow, looks like it will do annuities for me as well, right? Notice there's a PV also. I bet that's present value. Returns the present value of an investment or a series of future payments. So it'll do it both ways for you. Remember, future value is calculating forward, present value is calculating back. Let's use the future value. My interest rate, notice the function helper walks you through it. Interest rate, click on it. N per is the total number of payment periods in the investment. 12. Okay. The payment is the payment made each period. So notice we've got something a little bit different going on here. We're only making one payment. Okay, so we might have the wrong function. But let's treat this as if we're making 12 payments of $4,000 for a moment. Okay? 4,000 present value. Do I know what the present value is? Oh, yes I do. It's 4,000. Let's take the payments out. Let's assume we're not making any payments. There we go. That's how it works. Sometimes you forget because there's so much detail to this. So my interest rate, the number of periods, my present value. If I was making payments, it would figure it for me. Then there's something called type. And I love how it tells you what these fields mean down below. Type is a value representing the timing of the payment. Because you can make the payment either at the beginning of the month, you know, kind of paying it before it's due, like you do with your rent, or you pay it at the end of the month. The difference there is if you pay it up front, if you pay it at the beginning in advance, it doesn't accrue as much interest. If you pay it at the back end, it has that extra 30 days in this particular case to accrue interest. Okay? And payment at the end of the period. I'm going to omit it for right now, okay? And I'm going to click OK. Notice the future value of 12 compounding periods is negative $8,048. And I did this on purpose because you need to know this. The way the future value and the present value works is it treats the money going, it's a cash flow thing. The present value is money that you're putting into a bank account. It's going out of your pocket, so you have to treat it as cash flow. It's going out of your pocket, so you put a minus in front of it. If it was cash coming to you, it would be positive. So I'm going to go ahead, and now that I've showed that it's negative, meaning cash going out, it'll give me a positive number down here. Okay? So at this point we should all be asking, you know, where do we go make this investment? You know, because if we can take $4,000 and first off get a 6% investment on it, or a 6% interest rate on it, and turn it into $8,000, well, that's doubling. So you know, we should all be stopping and going, I sense a problem here, and I'll tell you what it is. I'm going to go back into the function wizard. The number of the interest rate that I use, this E19, the interest rate has to match the number of periods. So the fact that, and I kind of overlooked this the first time through, the interest rate is 6% for a year. We've got 12 periods in here on E22. So we have to take the interest rate and divide by 12 to get the appropriate interest rate. And if I modify that, then I get the correct amount. Our future value would be $4,246. Okay, so we know our formula works at this point. If I hit F2, we can walk ourselves through the edit function, and notice the Excel throws the helper up here, equals future value, the interest rate, E19 divided by 12, number of periods, E22, the payment, which is 0, notice it's stuck in here between these two commas, 0, present value, and it's cash flow out, so it's minus $4,000. Good? Let's test this a little bit. Let's go 4,000 at 6% for one period. Okay? And it gives us 20 bucks. Let's do our own testing. That means the interest we would earn is 20 bucks. So our interest equals our principal times our interest rate times our time, and let's say it's 12 months, so we've got 12 divided by 12. Oops, we don't want that. We just want the number 1, right? Now it's formatted as a date. We'll fix that real quick. Interest equals principal times the interest rate times the time, $240. Except, look, I did it again. I've treated this as one. This would be the interest for an entire year, and I'm treating this as the interest for 1 month over here. Let's start. Yeah, let's fix it, and then I'm going to start over and show you another example. Times time. Time is 1 divided by 12. It'll give me 20. There you go. Okay, let's start over. Let's do this again. New note, $3,000. We're going to invest $3,000. We're going to put it in a bank account that earns 9%. Okay? We're going to borrow it for, say, or we're going to put it into the bank for 1 month. The future value equals FV at 9%. Notice it wants the rate. I keep trying to point at this with my finger. I got to do the mouse. Future value of the rate at 9% for 1 period, and the payment, there is no payment, remember, so it's 0. And the present value, cash flow out, so it's minus 3,000, enter. So for 1 year, the interest on $3,000 at 9% is $270. Let's do the math. Plus 3,000 times 9% times 12 months divided by 12 months, right? $270. There we go. That one's hopefully a little easier to follow, because we're simply taking the principal times the interest rate at 9% times 12 divided by 12. So our future value is $3,270, including the $270 in interest that we would earn for putting the money in the bank. Okay? So let's change this up. I'm going to go to the function. If the bank is going to pay us 9% per year, but instead of compounding it annually, they're going to compound it every month, we would take the interest rate and divide by 12. The number of periods would have to increase to 12, right? 12 compounding periods. And the interest went up from $270 to $281, just because they compound it more often. But the key here is, and I'm going to hit F2, we had to take the interest rate and modify it by dividing by 12 to match the number of the interest rate for each period in the calculation. Okay, I hope that's straightforward. The other thing we could do here is go back to our name manager, and I could name these ranges investment, you can't have a space in there, interest rate, int rate, and I could refer to here, click OK, new, number of periods, refer to the number of periods, close that. Now in my formula down here, I'm going to go back to the function manager. For the interest rate, I could have it refer to interest rate. Notice it went and found the interest rate. It found 9% because it knows we named this cell right here int rate, and what did I call this? Number of periods is this cell right here, and it found 12 for me. And the present value is not E18 anymore. It's still minus, but it would be invest. It's the investment amount, and it went and found the 3,000 for me. Remember, I still need to take my interest rate and modify it and divide by 12. But the other thing I could do is divide by number of periods. So I'm now using my named ranges in my formulas inside of Function Manager. So that's really powerful. Interest rate divided by the number of periods, negative investment. Click OK. I still get the 3,281. And if I come down here and hit F2, you can see that our formula is now changed inside of the box. Equals future value of interest rate divided by the number of periods, modifies it to be the same, annual, or in this case monthly. And if I click in here, that's my interest rate, is this whole int rate divided by number per, comma, number of periods, NPER, and number of periods, comma, payment 0, comma, investment, negative investment. Okay? So let's change this back to one compounding period, and it changes back to 270, and all I had to do was change one number because I'm dividing by number of periods to modify my interest rate. Good? Okay. Let's do it the other way. Let's take the 3,270 and calculate the present value using the present value formula. Remember when we went to our function manager and present value, I can get PV, returns the present value of an investment, the total amount of a series of future payments. Okay, same thing. I'm going to have the rate, interest rate, and notice it filled it in for me. It filled in int rate for me because I've already named that cell. So it went ahead and filled in the name for me instead of the cell address, divided by number of periods. So I hit my modifier right there. My number of periods, my future value is 3,270. My payments are 0. Right, I'm not making any payments. And I'm going to hit OK. And I got present value of negative $3,000. Is that what I expected? No. Notice in the future value column, I didn't put that minus sign in. Right? That's that cash flow deal. So I throw in the minus. So $3,000 at 9% for one compounding period a year will grow to be $3,270. Conversely, if I know that if I want to have $3,270 in the future, and I invest it for 1 year at 9%, what is it? How much money would I have to put in the bank today to do it? $3,000. So here we are showing you how to do it both directions. Okay. Let's do a slightly different event. Let's do, I have 0 investment. Let's stick with that 9%. Okay. I'll format it as a percent. I'm going to put money in a bank for 12 months at 9%, and I'm going to change the borrow date to payments. I'm going to put $500, not $5,000. I can't afford that. Can't afford $500 a month either, but let's do it. I'm going to put $500 a month in a bank account at 9% for 12 months. What is my future value going to be? So this is a stream of equal payments. It's an annuity, right? I'm going to go click on future value. Notice when I hit the function tab, it shows me the ones I've used the most recently. So I'm going to hit FV, and it again is going to ask me for my rate. Notice I'm working in a different place, so it doesn't have named ranges. My rate modified by my number of periods. Number of periods. My payment. And now I know my payment is minus $500. My cash is going out every month, $500. What's my present value? It's 0. I know that. Okay. I could have put it 0. I could have left it blank. So if I make 12 equal payments of $500, one every month, at 9% interest, how much do I end up with at the end? Notice it kind of tells me what my answer is going to be. So I put 5 times 12, that's $6,000 in a bank account at $500 a month at 900% interest. I will have $6,253 in the future at the end of 12 months. Okay? Conversely, you can look at the present value and look at it differently. I'm going to make a string of payments for $500 at 9%. You have to think about it as a loan, though. Someone's going to lend me money today at 9% interest. I'm going to be able to make 12 payments of $500. How much money would they lend me today? And we can plug in the present value to calculate that. Again, the interest rate divided by the number of periods modifier, the number of periods, and the payment. Cash is going to flow out. The future value that I know of is 0 because I want to reduce the loan to 0, and click go. So if someone would lend me $5,717.46, and I would make 12 equal payments of $500 to extinguish the note. Okay? Now let's walk through and test that. Would you like to? Okay. If I have $5,717.46 principal, I hit the wrong key, stuff pops up. P-R-I-N-C-I-P-L-E, and my interest, and my payment, and my balance. So period 1, 2, 3, Excel's cool because I can take this and drag it down to 12, fill that in. So my interest on 5717 is plus the interest times, and I'm just going to do this on the fly here, 0.09 divided by 12, right? My interest rate modified for the number of periods, because it's monthly. Well, it's the same as saying times 9% times 1 divided by 12. Okay, so my interest for the first month is $42.88. My balance would then be 57.17 plus 42, but I'm making a payment of $500. So I would have plus 57.1746 plus 42.88 minus the 500 leaves me an ending balance of 52.60. So my new principal at the beginning of month 2 is the ending balance from the month before, and I can copy that down, and my interest would be the same thing. It would be plus the principal times the interest rate times time, so I can copy this formula down. One too many. My payment every month would be the same. And my balance would be the math of calculating it across. So, watch what fun is going on here. I started out, I borrowed $5,717. That accrued interest for the person I borrowed it from. I made a payment, my balance went down. The second month, it accrued less interest, I made a payment, my balance went down. The third month, less interest, made a payment, the balance went down. Made a payment, balance down, made a payment, the balance goes down, and in the final month, my balance of $496.28 is increased by the interest of $372. I make my final $500 payment. My ending balance on this loan where I borrowed this money is zero. So this is a full-blown amortization table showing all of the payments and the interest associated with this particular loan. I could throw in a total column, and I could total how much interest I paid over the life of the loan, the total of all of my payments, and my ending balance, of course, is zero. But it also serves to confirm that what we did over here, if I borrow $5,717, this number here, and I make $500 payments for 12 months at 9%, I pay off the loan. So we could use Excel to calculate these tables for us, and the payment amount that needs to be made. Let's look at it a different way. Let's treat it like we're putting money in the bank. I want to make an investment. My investment is going to earn interest, and I'm going to get a new balance. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Copy it down. So, let's go back to this original entry here. I made a $3,000 investment. I'm going to have to make that, format it right. My interest was at 9% for 12 periods. So plus the investment times 9% times 1 divided by 12. Calculates my monthly interest, and this is for 12 months, right? So my balance goes up from $3,000 to $3,022.50. And my new balance becomes my beginning for this month becomes the ending for last month. And the interest is calculated off of $3,022.50, and so on. So in the end, notice I earn a little bit more interest every month, and I keep adding to my balance. And in the end, my total investment, what I have in the bank, is $3,281.42. It matches what Excel calculated with the future value amount, $3,281.41. Cool. Okay. Let's do it slightly differently. Let's do an investment, a payment, interest, and a balance. 3. So this is an annuity. My original investment is 0. This is this hypothesis here. What is my future value of a $0 investment, but I make a $500 payment every month? Okay. And then my balance would be my interest plus the investment plus the payment. Okay, so what am I earning money on? I'm earning interest on both the investment and the payment here. So I would go plus or equals this plus the payment times, again, it was 9% up here. I just pointed at that with my finger, by the way, times 1 divided by 12. So I earned $3.75 in interest. My beginning balance for month 2 is the ending balance for month 1. Beginning balance month 3 is the ending of month 2, and so on. So I can copy this interest amount down as I continue to just calculate interest off of this. And we're going to have to format everything here properly. Let's see how we did. Haha. Okay, so we earn more interest, more interest, more interest, and we're coming up with $6,300. Everyone see that? And we're treating this as if we had made the $500 original payment at the beginning of the month. If we didn't and we made it at the end, this would change like that, and you wouldn't earn any interest on it in month 1. So you made that payment at the end of month 1. And it would look different based on when you were making the payment. Okay? Okay, so before it seems like I'm just rambling on here, let me kind of make the point with this. You can use the future value, the FV, and the present value, PV functions in Excel to calculate future and present value of both a regular single payment and or an annuity. Okay? Remember, if you have had bonds before, if you were in Accounting 1A, we covered bonds. And then bonds were to calculate the value of a bond, you would need to know the present value of the future payment plus the present value of the annuity of payments. So you can do that here, both of them with the same function. For those of you who haven't had 1A, I'll be brief and I'll cover it. Purchase value, not value. Okay, bonds are a form of borrowing. If you're a corporation and you issue bonds, people are giving you cash and you're promising to pay them in the future. So bonds are stated in things like $100,000 bond at 6% payments of payment of interest semi-annually. Okay, and then there will be a market rate on the date when the bond is sold. So the bond is going to pay 6% interest, but what if investors want more interest than that? So the market rate of interest is, say, 8%. Okay, so you have two things going on here, and I'm going to draw this out for you. How long is this bond? Let's call it a 10-year bond. Okay, so you got 1, 2, 3. Remember, interest is paid semi-annually. So this would be 6 months. And this would be 6 months. And so on. So you've got 20 periods of 6 months. Oh, I hate it when Excel does that. So it's 6 months from the date they sell to the first payment, 6 months from the first payment to the second payment, 6 months from the second payment to the third, and so on, until you end up with 10 years later you make the 20th payment, but they were paid every 6 months, so there's really only 10 years that go by, right? So you have a couple of things that go on here. You have a loan of the 100,000. So if you are the lender, if you buy the bond from company, let's call it Xerox, you're giving up $100,000 today, not $1 million. So I'll fix that. You're giving up $100,000 today in exchange for a payment of $100,000 in the future at the end, right? I didn't mean to underline that. So in 10 years, you're going to get the 100,000 back. 100,000 out today, 100,000 in. What you are going to get, and to do this right, I really need to show you that the cash going out would be in period 0. This is out today. This is paid to me at the end of the first 6 months. So at the end of the first 6 months, I'm going to get interest payment. I get nothing at the first one. How much interest am I going to get? Right, I lent somebody $100,000. Principal times interest times time is plus 100,000 times 6%. How long did they borrow the money for? 6 months out of 12. So I'm going to get $3,000 in interest every 6 months. They will send me a check. Okay? Every 6 months for the whole life of the bond, 20 periods or 10 years. So for my $10,000 out of pocket today, I get this whole stream of payments and one payment at the end. This looks like an annuity. This looks like this looks like a single payment. Okay. If I only wanted to earn a 6% interest rate, I would pay $100,000 for this stream of payments. But I want to earn 8%. So I need to do two things. I need to revalue this payment of $100,000. I need the present value of a payment 10 years in the future at 8% interest. So what is that worth? So I can calculate the present value of that equals PV, right? We know the formula. The interest rate is 0.08, and I need to divide by the number of compounding periods in a year, which is 2, right? Because it's a 10-year bond, semi-annual. Divide by 2, comma, number of periods, 20, right? Because there's 20, I'm using my finger again, there's 20 payments or 20 periods in this 10-year note. And I'm following down here, number of periods is 20, comma, payments, there are 0 payments, comma, the future value, what am I going to get back? I'm going to get back $100,000. So the present value of that is $45,000. I would put $45,000 in a bank account today at 8% interest, compounded semi-annual for 20 periods or 10 years, and it would be $100,000 at the end of that point in time. What's the present value of my annuity of payments? Equals present value. My interest rate again is 0.08 still, the market interest, divided by 2, because there's 2 periods per year, comma, number of periods is 20, comma, my payment is now $3,000, because I calculated that based on the 6%, the amount they're really going to pay me, 6% of 100,000, comma, future value, I don't know what it is, it's going to tell me that, and parentheses. Enter. Oops. I didn't put my payments in as a negative amount. Fix that. So I'm going to get 40,000. The value of those, the present value, say it clearly, of those future payments, that stream of payments called an annuity, is $40,770. The total value of the stream of payments and of the face amount of the loan, the $100,000, is $86,000. So I would pay $86,000 for this bond, theoretically. What's the present value? Let me just show a comparison. Present value at 6%. This is if the market is 8. I would pay less than face value for the bond. If the market is 6%, and notice that the bond stated amount is 6%, I would have a different formula. It still would be present value of 0.06, the stated rate, or the rate I desire to earn, divided by 2, because there's 2 periods per year, comma, 20 periods, comma, 0 payment, comma, future value is that 100,000 as a minus. So the present value, if I only want to earn 6%, the present value of that 100,000 is more than if I wanted to earn 8%. Think about it. If I put money in a bank at a higher interest rate, I would have to put less in the bank to get to the same number. Okay? The present value of that stream of annuity, that annuity of $3,000, present value of 0.06 divided by 2, because there's 2 payments per period, 20 periods. My payment is minus $3,000, and I don't know my future value, comma. So notice at a lower interest rate, I would have to put more money into the bank to get the same stream of payments. And if I add both of those together properly, the value of the bond at face value, at stated interest rate of 6%, is 100 grand. Again, the way to think about this is, if I'm going to put money in the bank at 6%, how much would I have to put in to get to 100,000 at the end? And if I put money in at 8%, I would have to put less money in to get to 100,000 at the end. So in total, I would pay $86,000 for the bond today, for a $100,000 bond, if I wanted to earn 8%. And if I only wanted to earn 6%, I'd have to put $100,000 in for the same payout. Okay, so I kind of digress. I'm off a little bit, but that's a way to use the the present value and the future value calculations. One thing I did not do here is I hard-coded this answer just because I'm demonstrating, but you would want to, use as I did up above. I have an input area, and my formula is referred to. I'll use this one. Referred to the cells in the input area, so that if I change my input, my answer changes. Down here, that doesn't happen. If I change anything, I have to go back and change how I hard-coded these formulas. So what I've just showed you right here is, this is how not to do it on your homework. Okay? Just a thought. Okay, so I've kind of done a lot to just show you the present value and future value functions. And the EDATE, and EDATE's funny. Okay, we'll talk about that one later. let's do kind of a more real world well, there's two more functions. Let's do a real world example on what I want to show you. The first one is very simple. Sometimes when you do a calculation in Excel, you end up with a number like 8.497462. Okay, what do you do with that? We're accountants. We're used to dealing with money. So it would be $8.50 if you rounded this manually, correct? So what if you wanted it to show up that way? There is a round function, equals round, point at what you want to round, comma, number of digits. So let's say I wanted it to be $4 or $8.50. 2 digits, enter, I get $8.50. Let me just make it show that way. Okay. The other thing you could have done, I've had students do, is they take this one and they show fewer digits to get it to do that. The problem is if you do math calculations with this cell that I'm on right now, it's going to actually use the whole 8.497462 in your calculation. And if you're doing something like this, a full-blown amortization table, like this up here, the rounding may leave you off by a little bit and it won't come to exactly 0. So you want to use the equals round function sometimes to clean that up. Okay? The other thing I want to do, I'm going to show you through an example. Let's hit a hypothetical here. Let's say we go out and we buy a house. And we want to know what our payment has to be on the house. So purchase price of the house, down payment, no, amount financed, interest rate, term. So let's say we're going to go out and we're going to buy a house in Santa Cruz County. So it's going to be a nice starter fixer-upper for, we'll call it 800 grand, right? Hey, it's Santa Cruz. Let's say we're going to make a 10% down payment, because that's what the bank requires. So the amount we're going to finance is $800,000 times 1 minus the 10%, which would be 90%. So we're going to go out and we're going to borrow $720,000. And we'll do that at, say, a 5% interest rate, except I want it to look like this. And we'll do it, typical loan is 30 years, 30 times 12 is 360 months, okay? Okay, so here's a real world kind of hypothetical. And I hope all of you have to go through this at some point in time. If not, you know, maybe your friend is going to come to you and ask you, hey, I'm going to do this and here's what's going on. Can you help me figure out what my payment's going to be? Well, we can just revert to Excel and ask it, what's my payment going to be? There is a function for that. If you spell it right, you can do a search for payment on a loan, and it comes up with PMT, calculates the payment for a loan based on constant payments and a constant, not changing interest rate. Okay? Payment, it wants to know the interest rate, and that's a annual interest rate. My loan is 360 months. That's a 30-year loan, so I have to divide by 12, right, to convert this to a monthly interest rate. The number of periods, 360. The present value of the loan, $720,000. I don't know what my future value is, and I don't know, I'm not going to change the type. And I'm going to hit enter, and I've made a mistake in that I didn't put my present value in as a negative. So a $720,000 loan on this theoretical house, my payments would be $3,865.12 a month. I may change this to monthly payment just to be a little more clear on what I'm doing. So think about it. If we cut the loan from 30 years down to 15, that would be 180 months. The payment should go up, right? And it does. So our formula is working. If our down payment goes up, that means our financing is less and our loan amount should go down. If our interest rate goes down or up, our payment changes accordingly. Okay? So there's a great way to calculate what your payment is. Let's take a hypothetical $100,000 loan, 5% interest, and let's make it a 10 years is 120 months. Okay, $100,000. We're going to $100,000 house, 10% down, $90,000 loan, 5% interest, 120 months. Our payment would be $954.59 a month. Let's do an amortization table for it, okay, just to kind of prove it out. Let's have some fun. So, period, payment, interest, principal, balance. Okay, so we have period 1, 2, 3, and so on. And I'm going to scroll down here so we can just focus on this. Oh, I want to make this simple. I'm going to make annual payments on this. I guess putting the word monthly in there was a bad idea. I'm going to make annual payments. So how do I modify this? We can go back to our function helper if we want. Number of periods is, notice it's N56, which is number of payments. I'm going to change my term to be 10 years. And my interest rate needs to change to be divided by the, oh look, it's 1 year, so I divide by 1, right? There we go. We should probably do a little cheat here to make this work. I'm going to plug it in here. I'm going to plug in what I'm going to call an effective rate. If I'm dealing with, again, I'm going to copy and move stuff around. Term, period. I'm going to do data validation. Data validation. List months, years. I have two choices. I'm going to make payments in years. This is a $90,000 5% 10-year loan. My effective interest rate is equals if this equals years, then, comma, plus interest rate. Okay? If it's not years, it must be months. So value of false is plus interest rate divided by 12, and that'll convert it to a monthly rate for me. Format it properly. Okay? So if I change this to months, notice I get a completely different effective interest rate. And then in my formula where I refer to my interest rate, instead of having to divide by 1 or divide by 12, I can just point at that effective interest rate. So now if I change this to 120 months, it goes back to that $954, all because I created this effective interest rate, and I'm doing the math formulas function. I'm doing the math for the interest rate, whether it be divide by 1 or divide by 12, and plugging it into this cell N57. Okay? So I'm cheating, but it's what I would expect you to do to get your homework to work right too. So I've got 10 years. Again, $90,000 loan, 5%, 10 years. Effective interest rate is 5%. The payment is $11,655.41 per year, as I've said right here. So my payment, let's see, I'm going to need a period 0. Period 0. The balance of my loan is how much? What I borrowed. My payment is my payment that I calculated with the PMT function. The interest that I earn, or that I owe, is going to be based off of the balance. So plus principal times rate times time. But guess what? I created this effective interest rate. So I can use that, and it'll cover both for me just like it did in the PMT function. So my interest is $4,500. So the principal part of my payment is the payment minus the interest. So my balance only goes down by the principal, plus the balance minus the principal. My new balance is $82,000. My payment is going to be $11,000. My interest is the balance times my effective interest rate. Notice my interest went down because my balance went down. That means the same payment, more of the payment is principal, therefore my balance goes down even more. Now I should be able to copy these down and get to 0 by that 10th payment. Unless I blow something up. Ah, do we know what I did? Yes, we do. Undo. Notice that I'm referring to N57 up here, and I didn't lock my cell reference. I need to hit F4 and fix it so that my interest rate refers to that. Because what happened on the next line down, I took my balance times 11,655 and I blew the whole thing up. So that should fix that. Now if I copy this down, I should get to 0. Hey, look, it works. I've got a $90,000 balance. I'm making $11,655.41 payments. The interest amount goes down every year. The principal payment goes up every year, and it drops my balance to 0 by the end of year 10. Good? I'm going to save that real quick because I got it to work and I'm all excited. So, what if I change my term on my note to 5 years? Notice my payment changed automatically. I don't have to change the years. My interest rate changed. These number signs usually mean the column is too narrow. Look what happened to my loan. I have a $90,000 loan. I have $20,000 payments. My interest goes to 0 by year 6, and my balance goes negative. That implies that I've overpaid the bank. Would we ever, in the real world, overpay the bank? Heck no. So my table needs adjustment. And I've built this great tool, but I have not set it up to automate. How do I get it to stop calculating if my balance goes to 0? And there's a way to do that. There's always a way to do it, right? I don't want to sound like it's no big deal, but it really isn't. What you want to do is you leave the first one alone. That first payment's going to have to refer to the payment. Go to the second one, and all you do is test the balance on the payment above to see if it's 0. How do I do a test? Remember our good old friend, the if statement? If the previous balance, ending balance, equals 0, then give me 0. Else, give me the payment amount. Else, give me the payment amount. There we go. And we copy that down. I did not have success. If Q66 equals 0, then 0, else M66. Well, it looks like it's 0, but it gave me a number. Let's add more places to this and see what we get. Look at this. If I add enough decimal places, it's not 0. So I have a problem. And notice that Excel will use all the available digits to calculate my balance. This is where we need to do, remember I taught you that rounding function up here? We need to fix this problem by creating a rounding. The payment is just a number, the interest, we're gonna have to round that. So I'm going to take the interest that we calculate and multiply it, or use the round, R-U-O-N-D function, round, and do the formula inside of it, Q61 times N57, comma, number of digits, 2 decimal points, hit enter, okay? And if I hit F4 here, there, and I copy this formula down, it should, oh look, my interest went to 0. Why is that not 0? Let's look. Oh look, I need to round my payment amount. Okay, so we can fix this by taking our payment. We have to go kind of find where these crazy big numbers are, comma 2. So if I round that, now this should give me that. My principal should give me, it should all start to work at this point. See, it does. Okay. So my balance should be, let's find out where it's blowing up. No, look, they're all 2 digits. They are all 2 digits, but I'm off by a dime. Ah, look, we're off by a dime. Oh, I'm off by a penny. Okay. So in doing rounding, I came up off by a penny. How do we want to deal with that? Well, we can do it in our test. If Q66 equals 0, no. Let's say if Q66 is less than or equal to $1. Stop. And I'm going to copy that formula up, and I'm going to copy that formula down. So what I've done is I've said any rounding that's less than $1, go ahead and stop. So I ended up with a balance of a penny here. Otherwise it works fine. So now if I make the term of the loan 6 years, it changes. 7 years, 8 years, 1 year, 2 years, 12 years. I don't have enough space, right? I haven't created my schedule big enough, but what I can do, given how I've set this up, I could make this as long as I want. Let's go down to, say, 180. And I could take this and copy it all the way down to 180. And you can see where when it goes to less than $1, it stops. And I put in 12 periods, 12 years, and at 12 years I'm done. Okay? And if I change it to 20 years, it goes to 20. Or if it's 20 months or 24 months, and it works. Everybody good with that? Here I am asking if you have questions again. This is so much more fun in class when we're doing it in person and we interact. But, you know, given time constraints, I think this is a great way to try and teach as well. So, let's go on and do one more thing. So everybody understands the round feature, I hope. Everybody understands the payment feature. I want to cover one more little concept here, just because this could be cool as I'm sitting here looking at this. Notice we've done this great amortization schedule for this loan, and all of a sudden I'm going to make it a 12-month loan. Okay? All of a sudden, when I've made the final payment, the balance goes to basically 0. I have all this stuff still showing up down below. I'm going to leave this as a homework assignment, but can you figure a way to do this and have these disappear? When it goes to 0, have it print nothing down here. Nothing at all. And adjust based on how many years or how many months you put into the formula. So for example, in this one, I would want all of this to disappear, or all of this to disappear. Okay? Or if I put in 180, notice it'll amortize this loan throughout the whole 180 months. And oh look, by that point we have accumulated a little bit more than $1 worth of rounding. But still, you can see how the loan amortization works. So, how can I make these disappear when the schedule is in effect over? Because it's over here. And none of this needs to show up anymore. Okay, let's consider that a homework assignment. All right, it's going to save. So, while it's saving, while it's thinking about that, and I don't know why it is, those are the cool concepts for this week. Chapter 16, calculating time differences in notes, calculating interest, using an if statement to determine if it's months or days, and calculating the interest accordingly, calculating future value, present value. I did a refresher on the name manager. I showed you how to calculate amortization tables for loans or investments. And we used those to confirm the amounts that were coming out of the present value and future value functions. We did a quick review on how to calculate bonds, which is kind of cool. And this is another investment, but I also did a calculation and an amortization table to calculate. I used rounding and the payment function to do an amortization schedule on a loan where you're buying a home and putting, X% down, and set it up where this is your input section, and the program will then calculate your payment and show you an amortization of all your payments, what your total interest is, total principal, and when the balance goes to 0. Okay, if you have any questions, bring them to class. I hope you're enjoying this, because I'm enjoying doing it. Excel's a lot of fun for me, and I hope you're learning something out of it. If you have any feedback on these, and you're willing to do it in a positive manner, I am more than happy to listen, and I would really appreciate it, actually. I'd like to know if these videos help you or not, because if they don't help, then I want to modify them and fix it so that they do. So help me out, help me help you, and we'll achieve something together. Talk to you soon. Okay, hang on a second. Before I say goodbye, I just took a look at your homework, and there's one small clarification I want to make, because there's something you need to think about. Remember when I showed you the bonds example here? And a bond is two different types of payments. There's one payment at the end for the face amount of the bond, and then there's a stream of payments throughout time. And you have to calculate the two separately to come up with the total value. One of your homework questions asks you to compare two different possibilities in your life. And the scenario is this. You're 20 years old and you have a choice. You can go and invest $2,000 in an IRA every year for the next 10 years and then stop and never invest any more in your retirement till you're 65. Or you can, now that you're 20, go out and buy a car, and in 10 years start investing in your IRA and put $2,000 a year in it every year until you turn 65. You have to calculate the two different items in different ways. So think about this. Invest now, invest later. So this is year 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's put your age down. Okay, so if you're 20 now, 21, 22, 23, all the way to, let's say, 65. Okay? So the hypothetical is this. If you invest now, you're putting $2,000 here, here, and you're going to invest that for 10 years to here. Okay? And it's going to earn interest. Say that they both earn, I don't know, 8% interest. What's the value of it with the interest? And over here you invest 0, and you start investing 2,000, but you do it all the way until you retire at age 65. Just like bonds, you have to calculate. This one you can calculate as a straight annuity of how many ever payments this is. 35 payments of $2,000. This one, remember that you're going to have to calculate a balance as an annuity to here, and then as a, from here down in this whole section, as a future value of the amount you came up with up above. Okay? So there's 2 steps to this one, and there's 1 step to this one. And that's on your homework. So I wanted to kind of give you a heads up on that. All right? If you have any questions, bring them to class. I'm pretty sure that's all for now then. Hope you like my videos. Hope you have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye.